Hey there, hello and welcome. I just want to give it a few minutes to make sure that the video is running. I was having issues earlier. So hello and welcome. It's Madeline here, and tonight I want to talk to you about whether or not depression can come back, right? And anxiety. But my example tonight is specifically about depression because I was on a coaching call with one of my clients late last week, and Lola, right? We'll call her Lola. And her depression has been healed completely. And she said to me, Madeline, I'm worried it's going to come back, right? Because she's feeling so good and she's making all these positive changes in her life and implementing all these positive behaviors in her life. And our time together is coming to an end. And Lola was expressing concern again and asking, can depression come back? I'm afraid of falling back into a depression. That's a more accurate description than can depression come back, right? So let me tell you a little bit about Lola and therefore explain how it is that depression doesn't come back, right? You would have to do the behaviors and have the emotions and the thought patterns that stimulate depression in order to have a recurrence of the depression. So just like I posted earlier, or maybe I'll copy it in this post, depression isn't something that you have or that you get. It's a set of emotions and behaviors and thought patterns that you do that stimulate the depressive response. So that's good news, because that means that you can heal it, right? That you can change your behavior and your thought patterns and take some level of control over your emotions and therefore regulate your state. So, hey, if you're with me live, say hello so I can see who it is. Otherwise, I can't see who it is if you don't say something in the chat. So let me tell you a little bit about Lola, which will give you a good indication about, how she was doing her depression. Okay, so Lola is about my age, and she had experienced childhood trauma. She had suffered abuse as a child, right? As a young child and into adolescence, and verbal abuse and physical abuse. And this built the impression that Lola had of her self-worth, right? So if you're suffering abuse from the people who are someone who's supposed to love you and protect you, then you can see how your emotions and your thought patterns could fall into a depressive state, because her young mind couldn't wrap her brain around how or why this was happening to her. So she fell into a depression. If your caregivers, right, if your parents are abusing you, or anyone is abusing you as a child or at any point in your life, really, and negative emotions are snowballed big enough and limiting beliefs are born that you deserve to be treated this way, that you're not worthy of love, kindness, compassion, and respect, then it's only natural that you're going to fall into a depression or suffer from anxiety. Lola suffered from both. And often depression and anxiety go hand in hand, because the behaviors and the thought patterns that stimulate them are similar, right? So that abuse set the stage for Lola's relationships, and she continued throughout her adult life to engage in relationships that were not good for her, right? Because this was her story, right? Because she was so deeply wounded by the childhood abuse, she didn't think that she was worthy of love. She didn't know that she was worthy of love and kindness and respect and compassion. So she continued to attract relationships that were not healthy for her in her adult life, which resulted in thought patterns of her falling into a depression, actually creating a depression. So, and I don't mean to blame Lola or anyone that has depression. What I'm here to do today is to give you hope and let you know that because you created it with your thought patterns, you can undo it with your thought patterns and with the truly miraculous technique that I use with my clients, which is mental and emotional release, which really allows you to let go of a depression in minutes. Because what we do is we get at the root cause of the depression. So in Lola's case, it was pretty evident what the root cause of her depression was, although we did have to do some digging in order to get at the beliefs that she had around her depression, which essentially was that she was not worthy of love and respect and kindness and compassion and just softness and love in general. So I hope you can see how depression is born, right? How depression is born because you have these thought patterns about how life is difficult and I'm not worthy of love and I don't deserve to be loved. I don't deserve to be shown kindness and respect and compassion. And then those thought processes are heartbreaking. And of course, they're going to lead to a depression. They can't lead to anything else. So we came together and we had, the first thing that we do in my Primordial Power program is we have a breakthrough session. And essentially what we do is in the breakthrough session, which is different from the breakthrough call that I'm going to invite you to in a little bit, if this is speaking to you, right? And essentially in the breakthrough session, what we do is we dig up the root cause of your situation, whether it be depression, anxiety, overwhelm, trauma, right? Usually trauma is some level of trauma is the result and the root cause of whatever is ailing you, right? It could even be, if it's not depression or anxiety, it could be your perfectionism or your lack of fulfillment and purpose in life that is keeping you from living a fulfilled and joyful life. So, but back to Lola, right? We did one of the first things we do in the Primordial Power program is we do the breakthrough session so we can get at the root cause of your problem, okay? And then we let go of that. And again, I let go of that using mental and emotional release. I'm a master practitioner and trainer of mental and emotional release. Let me share this book by my trainer. If you wanted to learn a little bit more about that. And I have an electronic copy of that. If you would like an electronic copy of that, send me a private message with your email address, and I will give that to the first person who requests it. Okay. So back to Lola. Okay. So Lola was suffering from depression. She had these stories, right? These stories about how she wasn't lovable, how she wasn't worthy of love, how love hurts, right? Because that's been her experience with love from the people who were, from the first people who were supposed to love and care for her. And then her thought patterns reinforce those beliefs, which dig up more sad and depressive and anxious, negative emotions. And then the cycle of depression is perpetuated, right? I hope that makes sense. Let me know if there's something that let me know if it does make sense. Let me know if there's something that you don't understand and you want me to elaborate on, okay? So I know that the pharmaceutical companies want you to think that, depression is a chemical imbalance, and it is, right? Because when you have these negative thought patterns on a regular basis, it does change your hormonal levels. It does change your brain chemistry. But the imbalance is not what came first. The thought processes is what came first, right? The negative emotions, the trauma is what came first. And then the repetition of that story in your mind and the repetition of tapping into those emotions and negative beliefs is actually what creates the depressive state. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so, and then with mental and emotional release, we can let that shit go in a few minutes. Really, the whole process takes a little bit longer than that, but the releasing of it happens in minutes. And there is a mental and emotional and physical release at you actually shift at the cellular level. It's truly miraculous, and I can't believe that this is not being taught in medical school widespread, right? So one of my trainers is actually teaching it in some medical schools, but he's only one man, and sadly big pharma is a thing, and people are being led to medication just because the medical profession doesn't know any better, quite frankly. Whereas you can heal your depression naturally. And if you're taking medication, Lola was taking medication, and now she's contemplating how she's going to work, how she's going to move towards coming off the medication with the help of her doctor, of course, because if you're going to do that, you need to do that with the help of your prescribing physician. So, and then we release it, right? So she released it. She was on day 2 of her breakthrough session. She was joyed to tears because she couldn't believe how good she felt. That she had been feeling bad for a good 20 years, right? A good 20 plus years, and that she could feel that the depression had lifted. I could see that the depression had lifted. And now our work is to implement the changes, right? So back to her initial question, which prompted my earlier post, and actually I'm probably going to put it in this post, and her concern that the depression could come back. So could her depression come back? No, right? Like, she would have to relive that trauma, retell herself those stories, and build up that negative state of depression again. Can she do that? Sure, right? Can she install a new depression? Sure, right? But again, in order to reinstall a new depression, right? In order to do new depressive behavior, she would have to do new depressive behavior in order to get a new depression, right? But part 2 of the work that we do together in my Primordial Power program is to learn how to integrate the changes, right? Learn how to install new thought patterns and new behaviors that are going to perpetuate your health and well-being. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. And if you'd like to talk to me about how to let go of your depression and or anxiety, if you're ready for your breakthrough, then I invite you to book a breakthrough call with me, okay? So I'm reading about this stuff all the time, and when I was reading about it, I learned that 15 million people in the US alone are challenged with depression. That's 7% of the American population has depression. And again, it's not something you get, right? It's not outside of you. It's something that you do. And the good news is that because you do it, it's very possible to undo it. But I would dare say that you need help. I've talked ad nauseum about why therapy is not the answer. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. In this book, there are case studies. There's research that was done on a massive scale, and actually the research compared patients who were getting mental and emotional release compared to patients who were getting MER, and the results were phenomenal, right? The patients who were getting treated with mental and emotional release had far more success, significant more success than those who were being treated with cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT therapy as it's known, right? So is cognitive behavioral therapy effective? It's somewhat effective, but MER has been proven far more effective, faster, and permanent, where those who were treated with CBT relapsed. If you want all those stats, message me for the book, and I'll be happy to send that along to you. And but the real point I want to make about therapy is that in therapy, you're reliving that story, right? You're retelling that story, you're reliving that story, you're perpetuating that story. And I've talked again and again and again about why that doesn't work, right? You're just reliving the story. With this technique, you don't have to relive the story. You don't even need to tell me about it. To get the biggest bang for your buck, we're going to talk about what happened briefly, but I don't need to know. You just need to be willing to let it go. And assuming that you're willing to let it go, it'll go. It'll go, and then you will be free, right? So if you want to talk to me about that, if you're ready for your breakthrough, to let that stuff go, I invite you to book your breakthrough call with me at MadelynCorrea.com/talk. And I'll look forward to talking with you soon. So again, I think I'm going to do a separate live on the breakthrough session because I'm trying to keep this short. That's different, right? That happens in the breakthrough session happens in my Primordial Power program. But the breakthrough call is completely complimentary. It's between you and I, and even if you don't enroll in my program, you will still get massive results from the call. People say I hear on a regular basis that they have breakthroughs during the call. That's why I call it a breakthrough call, and that they've gotten, folks who are in therapy, that they get more value out of the 1 hour that they spend on the phone with me than they have in countless sessions of therapy. So if this sounds like something that would work for you, I invite you to grab your spot now at MadelynCorrea.com/talk. And I will look forward to talking with you soon. Oh, or if you know someone that could benefit from participation in this group, I invite you to invite them to the group, and so they can get some of the goodness as well. Okay? So again, I look forward to talking with you soon. And in the meantime, I will see you in the gap. Namaste. Be blessed. Mwah.